Thank you for joining us on First Take. Our guest is Ambassador Alhaji Haruna Attah. So, it's been quite a while. How are you doing?
Well, I know, growing old, as you can see, graying all over, the motorway being withered by God himself. Yeah, but generally fine. And as I approach 70 next year, I feel I'm good for my age, and I thank my Creator and my family, my own self, for having been able to keep myself this well. So fine.
Great.
So far, so good.
So, Alhaji Haruna Attah, you wrote a book last year which you launched, and my Akan is not very good, but the meaning of it, I know it's a famous Akan saying that good beats don't talk too much.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And, you know, the book, how's it been doing? I have a copy.
Yes, so far so good. The title is Ahwinepan Kasa, and actually it's about former President Mahama, and I've worked very close to him, and I thought it was a very good and apt title to describe him as a person, and then also to use as the cover title of the book.
And I know you wrote that book last year. It's almost presumptuous to ask, when is the next one coming?
Oh no, it's not presumptuous. I'm actually working on one right now, but it's just the writing a book is difficult. Sometimes you get the inspiration to, other times for a whole week, maybe even a month, you are just dry, you are there. So, but I'm working on it. My daughter is here. She's a more accomplished writer than I am, and she's here on a short holiday, and she's giving me some inspiration. So I'm working on it. That one would take the form of social critiquing issues like the LGBT issue, which I think we've glossed over, and it's been more emotion than reason, and than science, than evolution, etc. So it's a very delicate issue, but I think we should have the courage to meet delicate issues straight on. Just because people are condemning it and claiming our culture doesn't permit it, our tradition, it doesn't mean someone cannot go out of the box and look at it again. Because as ambassador, I hosted a party for one of my departing staff once, and one of the guests that came was actually a transgender. I didn't know. I just saw a young woman until it was whispered in my ears that, do you see that young woman? She used to be a man. That was my first experience. I mean, I was shocked. But what could I have done? Should I have kicked her out of the place? I could have easily been declared a PNG, because in Namibia there
PNG is persona non grata, for those who are unfamiliar with the term.
Thank you. Because in Namibia they are more liberal about such things than we are. So I think we should learn to be tolerant. And just one final point on this one before you move on. I see you have a lot of things on your
oh, no, we can delve into that, yeah, because it's interesting you bring this up, because Ghana has MPs who've driven a private member's bill against what they call proper sexual values.
I think we should be careful about such things.
Why?
Because we are not looking at all aspects of the issue. You see, we are looking at it more out of our religious convictions, which some people refer to their scriptures, others refer to their traditional values and norms.
But is that a bad thing?
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's the interesting point. As we look at those things, we should also look at other aspects. That's why I looked at I spoke earlier on about the science of it. Have we looked at the science, the biology, the evolution, the evolution of the human sexual mores and so on? It's very easy to condemn. I agree. I am not a homosexual or a gay or whatever, but then
and you don't support it?
I don't think about supporting. Who am I to talk about someone's either weakness, proclivity, or preference or whatever. Who am I? I can't judge, and that's why I think judgment on certain issues should be measured. So that's why I'm saying we should be careful. I'm not saying I support them, I don't support them, or whatever, but then to rush into the kind of harsh bill, even wanting people who are accused of it to be jailed 10 years.
Those who advocate for them to also be jailed.
That's too severe. That's too severe. You can't do that to a human being whose proclivity is just sexual, especially when it's not out of rape, when it's not out of domestic violence and all those things. And let me tell you, I have been in prison before. And the prisoners, one thing they will tell you as soon as you are settled, the cell leader would read out a riot act to you, and one of it is that if they catch you buggering, you are in real trouble. So if they should sentence you for 10 years to prison for the crime of buggery, you could easily be beaten to death, because it's a no-go area in our prisons. When I was at Nsawam, they read that to me. When I went to Akusi, they read that to me. So when you send a prisoner who has been jailed for 10 years for buggery or whatever it is, he's exposed to the dangers of the anger of the other prisoners and could be beaten to death.
There's a view that we could be severely harmed if we go down this path of having this bill assented and approved, partly because of the international community that could then impact our, whether it's aid or support and all that. And I've heard people say this is even the more reason why we must pursue Ghana beyond aid, so that aid is not tied to these kinds of things, which some Ghanaians are opposed to.
Well, I really don't mind. The point here is they don't have any right to dictate to us. That one, I stand strongly by the point made by the people advocating for the bill. No foreign government has any right, much less Europeans and Americans, who've committed some of the biggest and most heinous crimes in history, and they are still committing it. They have no right to preach to us. So that one, I am quite unequivocal. The Britain, America, wherever, they don't have any right to tell us what to do. I'm just looking at it from a certain angle. Also tying their aid, well, they've done worse to us before, and they still are doing worse to us. And I don't even think that will impact that much. For the West, America, Europe, and so on, what they want are the resources to build their economies. For as long as they can get our raw materials, and then our politicians can connive with them to get those raw materials as easily and cheaply as possible, it won't affect us. It won't affect us in any way.
Now let's talk a bit about our current, democratic environment. For you, do you think we've benefited from our democratic experiment 28 years down the line?
Well, democracy is something beneficial. So for it even to be in, for us to be in a democratic state, it's a benefit. That alone, I would say, is a benefit. But as to how we've managed it is another matter. The management has been patchy, especially where tolerance is concerned, where media freedoms are concerned, and where excessive partisanship is involved. So the excessive partisanship is denying us the collective knowledge of the people. So one political party wins an election, and those that didn't vote for the party are put out to pasture. They don't matter. And a lot of these people that are denied participation in governance are perhaps some of the brightest people in science, technology, literature, music, and whatever. So we should find a way to sort out that thing. It's not helping our country.
Some people are suggesting a whole rewrite of the Constitution. Absolutely. And by the people, I mean the Fix the Country movement, a group of young people who've been severely angered by the poor systemic systems we have. And they have called for an entirely new constitution. They say that our constitution, which is 28 years old, needs to be put aside. Any thoughts on that?
I agree 100% with them. In fact, that's what I have been advocating quietly over the years. My friends and other people who know me know that I don't like the presidential system constitution in the first place. I prefer the prime ministerial system, where the prime minister is sitting in parliament every day and answering questions. Prime minister's question time. You would answer. You would say you are a president and you start playing imperial presidency, and on one day in a year you come and you say you are doing the sessional address, and your supporters are sitting on one side saying yeah, 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 and another group is sitting there saying shame, shame, shame.
That's but it's not as simple as that, Ambassador Attah, because a whole new constitution means there are major defects with your old document. This constitution has served us quite well. It's kept the peace for the longest in our era.
We have kept the peace. It's not the constitution. It's the people of Ghana who sometimes, in the face of blatant abuse of office, we take it in. Some may say Fama Nyame. Some will just say they don't want trouble. They just keep quiet. I mean, look, the coup d'etats are normally by small bands of people. When the coup d'etats happen, it's all as if the whole country has gotten up to overthrow a government in a genuine, true revolution. I was a young boy when the 66 coup happened. Kotoka and his band of people did it. Later, during the Second Republic, Gerard Champon and his band of people did it. Akufu came in somewhere, then Rawlings came in. These are bands of people who come in at a certain time, riding on the disenchantment of people to overthrow a government. Overthrowing of a government is what we should avoid. And we can only avoid it also when there's open transparency. And that kind of transparency is when you have the leaders to the top, to the very top, being answerable. And that's why I'm saying, yes, a constitution, we've used it. And this constitution is not a new thing. In fact, I saw the constitution, the writing of the constitution after the First Republic and so on and so forth. So this constitution is something new. And there is even an open secret that the Constituent Assembly that wrote it, actually Taylor wrote it for the late President Rawlings. That's an open secret. I'm not saying it. So it came with all sorts of powers for the president. So the time has come for us to look at that constitution, but especially aspects of it that allows presidents too much power.
We've had a Constitution Review Commission which looked at or called for proposals for amendments. There were a number of issues that many were unhappy with. One, the non-election of MMDCEs. Two, the Article 71 office holders and the perks and privileges that they get. And then I think three, the immense powers of the president to appoint more than 5,000 people when they come into office, and the winner takes all system. I'm just wondering, you say that a new constitution, which is better? I mean, making these amendments or a whole new document? The Fix the Country group take the view that we need a whole new document because proposals for amendments run into the thousands, and there is no way we can effectively make these, amendments without writing a whole new document.
Yeah, we are lucky we have a document, and that serves as a template. That's why I don't have a problem of whether a brand new constitution or what we have. What we have can serve as a template. We'll use that and come out with a new document, because eventually what will come out with from such an exercise will be basically a new document.
What areas of the constitution, for instance, would you want, whether it's amended or if we were to write a whole new document, changed entirely?
First and foremost, the head of government must be accountable to the people.
And you say the president is not?
He's not. He's absolutely not. Or else he won't go and put up something like a so-called national cathedral. If you are answerable to people, to the people of your country, you will sit in that parliament and you'll be quizzed, and such a thing like the so-called national cathedral will be kicked out, because it's such an abuse of office. But then, because of those immense powers of a president, a presidential candidate can win an election and come and tell his people that he has gotten a covenant with his God to build a national cathedral for his God. It's unacceptable. It's unconstitutional.
We'll come a bit
those
in detail. But you just gave one example. Is there something else you would like to see changed?
Yeah, you mentioned some, like the winner take all thing that makes presidents a lot more powerful than they should be.
Talk about reducing the power of the president, getting appointees to be well scrutinized. Then, of course, you support the election of MMDCEs.
Of course, and then...
So how do you want the election done? Because what the president, Akufo-Addo, sought to do 2 years ago was to appoint individuals and put them up for election. You just want a straight-out election.
It's all his business to appoint people and tell us to vote for them. It's all his business. If it's going to be an open system to vote for our people, we vote for them, like they do in other civilized democracies. Let the people offer themselves, and then we vote for them. In certain jurisdictions, even the police chief. And that comes to another matter about the Constitution. I don't believe in the office of an IGP. It's antiquated and it is anachronistic. We need local policing. And the local policing can only come when the police bosses of certain areas are in charge, not the IGP in Accra.
Now, just about
that should change.
The MMDCEs thing, you say that people should put themselves up and then we decide who gets elected into the position. But there's a government in office being led by, or there's a government in office based on a political party agenda. If we allow just anyone to put themselves up, for instance, and they are not in alignment with the party in power, the government in power, being propped up by a political party, how would that work?
Well, that is democracy, and that's why we need philosopher kings, as they say. That's why we need political leaders who know what they are about, who know that that power is not for them. So if they have a different political party in office and a local government person who supports a different party is in office, what they do is to work together. It's something we call cohabitation in French. You cohabitate. And that's what's happening in many democracies. After all, look at the US. The governor of a particular state may not belong to the party that elects the president. But then you work according to the Constitution. It can be done and it should be done. So if I had my way, the post of the IGP would be abolished from the Constitution. So it has to be an overhauling of it. You see, even though the young men think the Ghana say they want the whole thing, once we overhaul it properly, and I'm saying we already have a template, and then we also have what President Mills's commission has done. So this shouldn't take time. Political power is not for politicians. We keep making that mistake. It's for the people. So when you go to elections and you elect officials, it's not for the official to come and lord it over you, spend all the money they do. No.
Just a quick point on that. One of the major criticisms in the first half of this year has been the perks of Article 71 office holders. I've heard Fix the Country and other Ghanaians say that that portion of the Constitution needs to be totally obliterated. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. You see, but
then the articles. No, the reason why I want to interrupt. Pardon my interruption.
Go on, Jifa.
Article 71 office holders are not just politicians; they are justices of the Supreme Court. They are heads of commissions, and
they are
other
already
states.
catered for. They are already. Look at the perks the Chief Justice has, and the Chief Justice can be as partisan as they can be. They have perks. I was an ambassador. I had my perks, even though the salary was not much, but I didn't have the privilege of TNT. Anytime I traveled to do some business, the lower officers had it, but I didn't as a head of mission. But then I was entitled to, what do they call, something you account for, accountable interest. So it made me accountable. We should inculcate in ourselves that by being in office, it doesn't mean you are there for your creature comforts. Yeah, so we can't put them at a certain pedestal and expect that our economy wouldn't overheat on government over expenditure. Because the over expenditure we keep talking about, government over, it comes from all such places. And by the end of the day, the government ends up in, well, the economists will say deficit financing, debt this, debt overhang, debt whatever. And it's because we spend all our resources to please and pleasure public officers. It's wrong.
Let's move on to some other interesting issues. You're a celebrated journalist, award-winning one, and also a fantastic writer. I always loved your very short editorials in the Accra Daily Mail. Very short, but really just made the point. It's been some 5 years of the Akufo-Addo administration. There's a view that when it comes to press freedom, we're on the decline. There's a view that there's a self-imposed culture of silence. And I remember when Sir Sam Jonah raised it, it's like the internet blew up. And also there's been the shutting down of radio stations in particular, or media houses, let me put it that way, on the view that they hadn't met the requirements the regulator had put in place. Do you think media freedom is on the decline?
Yes, it is very much, and I can give you just a very latest example of what happened to me. You know, now we belong to all sorts of platforms and whatever.
The social media platforms.
The social media platforms. I belong to some platform of distinguished persons, and I was going to put something on the platform announcing the relaunch of my book online. I've done a newsletter and I'll relaunch it on the 1st of September for people who didn't see it or who couldn't get it or who couldn't afford it to read for free online, even though there will be a link for those who want to buy to an online bookshop. And one of the leading people on the platform said, oh, don't I think this platform, because the title has Muhammad's name, if Muhammad's name can let people of a certain level be jittery and nervous, and that was the advice I got.
That you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, because there are some people on the platform who are government officials, who are this, who are this. That is classic culture of silence.
Self-imposed. Not the culture of silence of the 80s.
Not of the 80s, but quite the same. Culture of silence is culture of silence, because you must be afraid of something before you can impose a fear on yourself.
President Akufo-Addo disagrees. He says that the media have been free to criticize him, and in fact he takes a contrary view that the media also needs to be critiqued. He takes a view that there's so many plethora of radio and TV stations and newspapers, and then social media, and he is even the most vilified leader in the country.
He's lying. They he vilified John Mahama more than any other president in our living history. When that thing they were doing around Flagstaff House, what do they call themselves? Something Occupy Ghana, and all those things, and the media. I've read insults by people who are ministers against President Mahama, who was just doing his best with the problems he had. So he can't say he's the most vilified. He is not. He is not, and I have evidence to show that he is not. So he shouldn't say such things. What we should do with is that, and I agree, and I've said it many times, that the media, we need self-critiquing. Because I think we have also not shown a certain quality of journalism. I remember when I was a schoolboy, our teachers would say, go and read the graphic and improve your English. Today, can you tell any schoolboy to read any of our newspapers or listen to any of our radio stations to learn English? So the quality, the standard has plummeted. And individually also, we've been caught up in this terrible politics of Onkayaho. So you are either part of a government, a party, or whatever. Nobody listens to you. So that politics of Onkayaho has led to this extreme partisanship.
So it's either you are with one party or the other, and if you are not, you are not listened to.
Yeah. So that is what we should look at in general
for the media.
For the media, that the media should rise above it. But all means.
But is it possible to rise above that if media owners are politicians, for instance?
You can rise above it if you insist on quality. You see, if you are a media owner, it doesn't mean you shouldn't insist on quality.
No, the media owners are politicians.
Yeah, they are, but that does not mean they should go and read Joseph Pulitzer's justification for why he was helping establishing the Columbia School of Journalism. I think all journalists and owners should just go and read that treatise, which was in 1911, I think, or something. When you read what Joseph Pulitzer wrote about journalism and the kind of respectability journalists also should get, like doctors, like lawyers, and so you understand what I'm talking about. So an owner may have a political direction, but that does not mean he or she should not abide by certain ground rules of journalism. That's what I'm talking about. We can't be clones of one another. It will be terrible. We need a plural media. That much we need. Some of them political, some of them apolitical, some of them environmentalist, some of them human rights. We need a plural media. But then we should abide by, like I'm saying, some of the things Joseph Pulitzer wrote in justification of his support for the establishment of the Columbia School of Journalism.
There is a criticism that this, in fact, I'm glad you referred to it, the politics of Yenkayehu and Onkayehu. Is that it?
Yeah.
The politics of Onkayehu. I like the way you refer to that, because there's also the view among younger journalists that there's no reason to be steadfast.
They are right on the second part. I mean, the Ghanaian journalists really are on the receiving end. They are not paid well at all. I was a newspaper owner myself, and the market was so depressed. You couldn't even make enough money to buy newsprint for next week or whatever. So the newspapers, especially, not the radio stations, also the radio stations, some of them are just minting money on a daily basis.
But it doesn't seem that that's for everyone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Some of the radio stations, they are minting. But then generally, the generality of Ghanaian media people working in electronic media, print media, their remuneration is nothing to talk about. In fact, they are very, very badly paid. So you ask the question, should that be an excuse for us to engage in some of the unethical things some of us have been engaging in? I don't know. It's for the journalists themselves to somewhere along the line start being introspective, and then the public talking long enough to discourage us from the Soli tradition. Well, this Soli tradition it's become a source of fun and joke, but it lies at the very, very bottom of this issue. And the Soli tradition was not today. It was far, 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 far ago that journalists felt that bad that, hey, if there's some solidarity coming my way, why not? But now it's ingrained. It's ingrained. And then the political thing too is there. I don't believe in politicians being disqualified from owning media houses. That is not democracy. That's not democracy. And that's not freedom of the media. They should by all means own it, but they should let their practitioners adhere to the rules. So
it is for us to hold government to account.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we should do that better.
You said it. But a president, a minister, it's none of their business. They are in the executive branch of the state. We are in the fourth estate. Was it one French king or whatever who coined this term of the fourth realm of the estate? So we are there, and we should guard it jealously. The president has no business. He has no business. He was saying all these things. He's being presumptuous. It's not for him to talk about the media. When he talks about the media in a certain way, we should be able to tell him to shut up. Mind your part of governance. You are in the executive branch. Some people are in the legislative branch. Others are in the judiciary, and we are in the fourth estate. We don't want anybody interfering with us, just as they resent us interfering with their work.
Final point on media. What will you say to those who have an issue about journalists who've been critical in the past being co-opted into politics, for instance? Because there's a view that there have been senior journalists such as yourself who, after being and it's not just you alone, there have been others who've been co-opted into politics in different roles, and they've lost their sense of critique. Is there something that gets lost when a journalist joins in the process of governance?
Not as such. You see, when you join that process, it is assumed that you are doing it on principle and in clear conscience, and so you will be able to satisfy what you should do for the people. So I don't have any objection about that. Governments can co-opt media people to help them with this and that. Just because you are a media person, it doesn't mean you should be totally out of that system when you are invited. But you should know where to draw the line. Then now you should know you are a politician. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. You should draw the line. There's nothing wrong with it. So once the line is drawn and you know now this is what you are doing, you are a politician, and then you also then now start feeling the barbs of the media against you, because now you are a politician. I was appointed by President Mahama as High Commissioner, not because I held an NDC card at all. In fact, it was later that when I was hearing such things, I said, oh, then I'll go and get an NDC card and become a member. So I went and got an NDC card, and I'm a member. So you get how it works. But I wasn't. As an ambassador, I wasn't. And before then, I had held a number of public service appointments. I had served as...
you were on the board of TOR.
I was on the board of the Ghana News Agency. I was on the board of the Ghanaian Times. I was on the... during Rawlins's time, I was even the managing director of the SY Ghana Film Industries Corporation. Even if you look at the religious side of things, I was on the charities board of the Latter-day Saints Church and so on. So as you grow up, certain aspects of your experience can be tapped in by all sorts of people. So I look at it as tapping in to your experience.
So is it unfair to expect that then anyone who moves into those positions should continue to be critical of governance or a government?
Well, then they are no longer really practicing journalists. They are now politicians.
So people should not expect them to play the role of a journalist in
really.
That role.
Yeah,
okay.
Then we are being naive too and unfair to them in a way. Yeah, I know of a lot of my friends who become virtually spokesmen of, well, governments. Well, if they are now politicians. They are spokespersons, and let them do it well. And if there are benefits which they get, and I understand some of them have got certain benefits, I don't know. But if they are getting it well, that's what they've decided to do according to their conscience and their principles.
Let's talk about the perception of corruption. The current Akufo-Addo government has come under some, heat about how it's tackling corruption or its anti-corruption agenda. There's a view that they're not doing well enough in that space. In fact, the president met civil society team members just some time ago, and he sought to put out that they are fighting corruption effectively. His decision to let the Auditor General Domelevo go was really just based on the law. However, there have been criticisms that we've not dealt with people who were part of a special purpose vehicle to deal with the excavators that were raided during the Galamsey era, sometime in 2019, 2020. We also have the current ACA GNPC deal that's under a lot of attack And then, of course, you had the PPA boss, Mr. J, who was engaged in a cash for sale. The PPA boss, Mr. J, who was engaged in a cash for sale deal. And there's a view that nothing is being done about this. But the current administration is prosecuting the NCA boss, former NCA who went to jail, the Cocoa Board boss, and now Collins Dauda. Yet the health minister remains off the hook following the Sputnik V, botched Sputnik V. I mean, what are your thoughts about the Akufo-Addo government and its anti-corruption agenda?
That one, the less said about it, the better, because it's so glaring that this is not an upright or a clean government. All these things are out there in the public domain, and I don't even have to regurgitate them on this program. Everybody talks about all these things. But then I have a different look at this whole concept of corruption, which I think we are getting very wrong. You see, when you hammer too much on the negative becomes you. We are more than corruption. We have creativity and innovation to promote. We are not promoting that. Once we are able to promote creativity and innovation as a people, as a nation, as a state, corruption would minimize, because then creativity would take over. Everywhere you look, something creative would be propping up. Who says America, Britain, and those places don't have corrupt people or there's no corruption? There is, but they are always creatively doing things, inventing things, to the extent that when we have problems here in this part of the world, instead of even looking for homegrown solutions, and that is where the creativity and innovation comes in, we go running out there to use their solutions. I believe that we should step down a little on the rhetoric of corruption and build up creativity. That is a lot of work. That's a generational thing. And
but some may disagree with you, because the view is that corruption is not just even about high level or political corruption. It permeates from the lowest level to the top.
Jeffa, but that's the problem, because even at the lowest level, it's there. So that means it's eaten into us. So we have to cauterize it somehow, or else it's eaten into us. Our body fabric, every day, it's happening to you. Even the idea of walking down the road here, you meet young men, say your boys are, it's an element of corruption. Or you go into a shop when you are entitled to your change after buying something, and cash, whatever they are called, the girl at the till,
the cashier
will tell you that, oh, but sir, do you have once a day and give me that? Because I don't have change. It's corruption, because then she knows you don't have, and you eventually leave your change with her out of frustration. It all adds to the corruption, but it's because we haven't built in us the idea of innovation.
The reason why I raised the corruption on a political level is, in the Mahama era, there were accusations of corruption, and they always use the Mahama Ford gift as the example. And so it's about the standard that has been set, and that's why there is a view that the current administration needs to do a bit more.
No standard was set at the Mahama time. Since independence, the first coup d'etat was because Nkrumah was supposed to be corrupt. The second coup d'etat was because the Butia administration was supposed to be corrupt. The third coup d'etat was because the Liman administration was supposed to be corrupt. So the issue of corruption was not today, but how we are tackling it. And that's why I'm giving
we are not tackling it well.
No, and that's why I'm giving a rather long-term look at it again. So our governments have to be more, the word is ecumenical, like bring everybody in, and then we see just how to resolve our problems. Like people will use the word systemic, how to resolve it. We can't resolve it by jailing one or two people. You just create resentment for the families of, from the families of those you've jailed. It won't go far. Unless you want to build many prisons around the country and shove all of us in it and see whether you get someone to do any work again. But then we should be we should make it a generational thing. Like for the next 5 years, we are going to tackle school creativity. And these are the resources we are going to pour into science education. These are the resources we are going to pour into music, literature. These are the things that build a nation, not angels.
But how do you justify that when a lot of young people now see the quick way to get a job, make money, is to join a political party from the university level all the way and get in through political patronage?
Again, that is the problem, because they have nothing creative to do. It's just political patronage. I know of young men and women who left their schools, their education, to go into politics, to become MPs, to become this and that, because they have nothing else to do. And then the system that the creature comforts of the politicians is so uppermost in our way of doing things. They see it, and so they want to go in. And we see them around. We see the MPs who were this just yesterday, and today they are this. But because there's no creativity. I know a lot of young people who just need a certain situation where they can germinate and thrive in their creativity. You were talking about my daughter, or I was talking about my daughter.
Yeah. Your daughter is a writer, a famous one. She won a recent award some time ago.
Yeah, she's won many awards.
She went to Colombia.
She went and NYU. Okay. She has 2 master's degrees. I'm proud of her, but she is pursuing her creative interests. She's writing. It's not bringing her any money just yet, and then we are saying that I should continue. Sooner or later, your creativity would pay off. So we are not railroading her into an immediate money-making venture. We have to have that mindset as parents, and then as governments, and as adults. If we don't have, it won't change. They can just go, whether it is what is it? The man they are now trying to jail,
Collins Dowda.
Okay, if that suits them, if that will make them happy, if that will make them seem like they are fighting corruption, okay, they could go on. If that will pass their consciences at not being selective justice, okay, they should go on. He will go in. Eventually, he will come back, but the situation will still be the same. We should find a way, like I said, of cauterizing it. And it's going to be a generational thing. It's not something we can do overnight. If we try to do it overnight, we will fail.
Okay, so we'll be wrapping up soon. Ambassador Attah, it's been a great conversation. So we'll be wrapping up soon, but let's talk a bit about some ongoing politics. So former President Mahama is on a thank you tour.
Yep.
It's been ongoing for about a week.
Yep.
He's been in the northern part of the country,
yep.
Savannah, northeast,
yep.
north, upper west, upper east. Our current president, Akufo-Addo, is in Germany on other bilateral visits, helping issues to deal with support for COVID and our debt situation and the like. Going forward, 2024. They say politicians live for elections. 2024, can the MPP, for instance, break the 8-year cycle convention?
I can't comment on the MPP because I don't know what they are up to. I don't know their strategies. I really couldn't care less. But
will the NDC win 2024?
I hope so, and I'm planning because and I'm praying that they do, because I know President Mahama very well, a good man. I mean, when Ghanaians rejected him in 2016, it really broke my heart, because he's a good man I know very well. Apart from the work he was doing, and it's there for everybody to see. I've dealt with JM on a personal level. He's a very funny man when you get to know him. But then above all, maybe that's his weakness. President Mahama is compassionate. It is his compassion. I mentioned it in my book. It is his compassion I really grew to love about the man. And some people are saying, some NDC people are saying, even right now, I received a WhatsApp message yesterday. Some people say, no, President Mahama must be hard. He should not, no, he should be hard. This soft little won't work.
Okay, so let me put in the brakes there. Should he be the one even seeking to contest for the NDC in 2024?
I shouldn't even think he should seek, I think he should be made, I think it should be by acclamation.
For somebody who lost an election in 2016, lost again in 2020, should he be, it doesn't show a long-term path, because
how many elections didn't Nanado win, even from lose, even from his party level?
But he was not a president before losing.
Yeah, an election is an election.
He wasn't a president before losing. So I fear, the worry is that if former President Mahama were to lose 2024, it will damage his political credibility, because really a president losing twice already.
It's not the loss of an election. It's the participation in an election. I think, like I keep saying, we are reducing things to the arithmetic of here
win
and here, lose. No, it's more than that. It is the participation in a democratic process, which is important. If President Mahama should want to go and his party would acclaim him, that's fine.
So you want him to be acclaimed?
That's what I want.
But if people want to contest him?
That's all. That's democracy. So they should go ahead and contest him. But I have not been reducing things to winning and losing. It's a participation. And as a people, we should start looking at things from this kind of broad perspective. Just because you've lost an election, you haven't lost your humanity. You haven't lost your experience. You haven't lost what you have, your integrity for the people. Some people say, oh, he's lost an election. No. What does it matter? He's participated in a process to advance our constitution and our democracy. That is what matters to me.
So for you, Godspeed to him for 2024.
Inshallah.
You mentioned in our earlier bit of the conversation, you seem very critical about the president wanting to build a national cathedral. The last time I spoke to the National Cathedral spokesperson, they mobilized already, from what he told me, almost $50 million
they can mobilize $1 billion. What they are doing is not right.
Why is it?
It's unconstitutional. The Constitution is very clear that the state in any way should not put one religion's interest over the other religions. It's unconstitutional. It's pure and simple. The Supreme Court, which threw out the challenge, got it wrong. They got it wrong. They should go and read the Constitution again.
The reason why I raise the question about whether it's constitutional or not. We have a beautiful national mosque built by the Turks.
You see, this is unfair and disingenuous. The mosque has nothing to do with a cathedral.
Of course.
The mosque came about because there was a mosque at the central part of Accra, which was demolished during the Rollins School, and they started looking for money over the years. Do you know the number of years that took? And the mosque didn't come about because a politician said he had a vision and made a pact with his God to build a mosque. No.
It's true. The mosque, the National Mosque, beautiful as it is funded with Turkish support.
And other support over the years.
Yes. But then the National Cathedral.
It's not national. It's a Christocentric thing. It's not national. And the mosque is not a national mosque. It's a grand mosque. It's a misnomer to refer to those things as national. National is an entirely different thing.
Are you critical of the cathedral project just because the president conceived it?
Just because he's made his personal whim into a national whim. It's wrong. He has no right to do that. And that's why I keep saying Ghanaians should look further from just what is being just in front of us. He has no right to use his personal pledge to his God. If we should have a Buddhist president the next time, and he also wants to build a Buddhist center to the Buddha, or even this grand mosque, forget about it. If we should get a Muslim president who says now he also wants to do a mosque that he had pledged to his God, an Islamocentric mosque, it is just wrong. You don't allow politicians to get away with their whims and justify it. This cannot be justified.
The leaders of Christendom have said that they've taken
but they are Christians.
They are Christians.
Doesn't
that make any difference?
It's a parochial thing and it's wrong, and they should rise above it. They should rise above it. They are in a country, a secular country. It's not a Christian country. The Constitution allows freedom of worship, which makes religious pluralism our catchphrase. That means we can have as many religions as possible, but then in the running of the state, the churches and the mosques don't come in. It is wrong. They are wrong. Those people, I've been seeing them going around in their cleric, whatever. They are wrong. They should grow out of that parochialism. We expect older people with experience, when national issues come up, to rise above parochialism. I'm married to a Christian. My wife is a Christian. She goes to church when she was strong enough to go to church. She used to go to Good Shepherd, yes, here. I'm a Muslim. There was a mosque up there I used to go to. Islam, Christianity, religions can't coexist. And that's why our constitution is clear. It allows for pluralism in worship. But it doesn't allow for a politician to take what belongs to the nation, our commonwealth, for himself and his religion and his faith, and actually destroy things that belong to us to put up such a thing. It's wrong. And Ghanaians should better rise up to these things. These are the abuses. It's an abuse of office. It's an abuse of office. Look at it from any angle. I'm very passionate about it because I think Ghanaians, instead of fighting for the right thing to be done, then we look for excuses. But if this, I don't do bats with it, some issues.
You mentioned your wife.
Yeah.
She's the sister of former First Lady Nana Konadu Rawlings,
yes,
who was also the first female flag bearer we've had in the country.
Yep.
I did hear a recent interview where you indicated that you'd made peace as a family, because I know that that was really a major topical issue in the 90s and even in the early 2000s. Do you guys meet?
No,
often?
it's true. We do. There's a certain circumstance led to it, but there is peace. Before Rawlings died, we were peace. The former First Lady, she comes here sometimes, but she speaks to her sister almost on a daily basis, and we're all happy about it. As for her misadventure into that flag bearership, I think that's what it is. But it's
a reflection of the comment you just made. It's a participation and contribution to the democratic process.
You didn't let me finish. I was going to say I was particularly happy that a woman had, or a female, a lady, had the courage to take that decision. And it wasn't just the courage, but to break away from a major party like what her husband founded. That was courage. And I expect that women will do more of it. I have 2 daughters. I don't have a male child, and
But you have a grandson, beautiful
grandson. I have 4 of them.
Okay, four boys.
Yeah, 4 boys. 2 of them are twins. Even 4 grandsons. So I'm an advocate for female rights and female interests. So when I see women in politics, it impresses me. But I laughed at that one because it was a misadventure, because the way she left the NDC, the bad blood.
Her leaving of the NDC, was it deja vu for you? Because considering how critical you were of the Rawlings regime, and then of course when the NDC was in office, did you ever think she would ever leave? That's Mrs. Rawlings. Did you ever think she would ever leave the NDC?
Yes, I thought it was possible.
You thought it was possible. So it didn't come as too much of a
surprise. For me, even though I thought she could have stayed within the system and grown up within the system. Perhaps John Mahama wouldn't have selected Professor Jane
Poku Ajiman.
And probably Mrs. Rawlings would have been his running mate, and probably they would have been president. Yeah. So I see all these possibilities there. Just like I've been admiring you and your program. Yeah, the ladies in journalism, you are doing very well. It goes back to people like Elizabeth Ohene. They were some of our
Mabel Dove being the pioneer.
Yes. They were our real role model. And a certain generations, people like Wendy Esiama, they were all there. Alassane, Susan Alassane.
Yes, Susan Alassane. Yes,
Susan
Selma Valcott.
Selma Valcott.
Yes,
yeah,
Selma
these
Valcott.
were very good writers, very resourceful. My wife was a very good journalist and a good editor, having worked at GBC and Daily Graphic, and then in later years with my newspaper, which is now defunct.
You're turning 70 next year?
Yep.
What's going to happen? A new book, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I've started making notes, but then when you get to this age, you just keep praying that the man who brought you on earth will keep extending the time for you to stay on earth. So I'm looking forward to us achieving some of these things we've articulated in this interview, a rewritten constitution to take care of certain things, the building up of democracy through innovation and creativity, cutting down on the creature comforts of politicians or for politicians, and so on and so forth. I hope I live to see some of these things. And then the Onkayanho politics, that should definitely go out of the window in my lifetime.
All right. Ambassador Alhaji Haruna Attah, it's been a riveting conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And you've been watching Alhaji Haruna Attah, His Excellency, former ambassador to Namibia. And he's been speaking to us about various national issues relating to democracy, governance, the media, and, of course, his outlook for the future. Thank you very much for watching First Take.